Welcome back to the Spicerer's table and our Hungarian dinner. What I have right here, this is an Austrian Spätzle maker. This is for making drop noodle dumplings. We're going to be making galuska, which is Hungarian drop noodle dumplings. Hungary is famous for a few different kinds of dumplings, and the one we're going to be making today is the drop noodle dumpling that requires a device like this. They also make a device that looks like a box, sort of like a grater. It's rectangular and it's got two cylinders on each side, rails on each side, and a little hopper that fits over the pot, and you fill the hopper with the loose dough. This one fits securely over the side of the pot, as you can see. I'm going to hold it over because I have a lot of water in this pot to cook this. And so that's what we're going to do today. And while that water comes to a boil, I'm going to turn the oven off for our cabbage. I will grab a platter and our spider. We're going to need a spider in this recipe. And I'm going to turn this down now. We'll turn it back up when we're ready for it. And our chicken is down at a simmer now on the back burner. And we're going to start with our dough. The first thing is we need to start with our wet ingredients. 3 eggs. I use jumbo eggs, but large eggs would be fine. And I'm going to beat them. They need to be homogenized. And to that we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of chicken fat or clarified butter, or you could just use vegetable oil would be fine too. Give it a beat. And 1 cup of milk. And that is our liquid mixture. Next, we're going to work with our dry ingredients, which is 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. This is 1.5 cups of Swan potato starch flour. If you can't find Swan potato starch flour, you can just use a full 3 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to add a pinch of salt here. We got to season them. And 2 tablespoons of parsley. The other dumpling that's popular, one of the other dumplings that's popular in Hungary is the dumpling that's found in the soup, which is pinched dumplings, szpetki, which the dough is a much stiffer dough and it's pinched into little balls, and that is cooked in the soup. These drop noodle dumplings can also be cooked in the soup. You can use this device and dispense them right into the soup if you like. Real easy to do, fairly simple. Or you can do what we are going to do, which is going to be to cook them in the water. We're going to remove them to a plate, and then we're going to finish them with melted butter in a skillet. So now we have mixed everything in here. Make sure everything is well distributed. You want to get the 2 flours mixed together. Then we're going to make a well in the center. And we're going to add our liquid. And start to mix. I'm using a mixing spatula, but a rubber spatula like this, but a silicone spatula like this would be just fine. This is great for batters. I'm actually going to take the whisk and start a little bit with the whisk at the beginning here. And then when it gets stiff, I'm going to transfer back to that. Because you don't want any lumps in this batter. Now I'm going to switch back to this and continue. This is going to make a very loose dough, what you might call a batter, but it is in fact, it's a dough. Now I'm going to turn my water all the way back up because we're getting ready to cook these. And it's already boiled, so I'm now going to salt the water. Okay. Show you the dough here in a second. It's a very wet dough. Out here. Also going to pull dish here to set my device on. And I'll show you the dough here. It's a very wet but smooth dough, as you can see here. And I'm going to get rid of my mixing paddle here. And I will use a spoon to help dose out. To help with the dosing out of these noodles. If we need to, we're going to use a spoon. We need to wait till it's fully bubbling, and then we're going to put a spoonful into our machine. And the way this works is you put your batter in here over the pot, and as you move the handle, just like a food mill, it presses the dough through the holes. And you don't want to do too much at a time because you want them to be able to separate in the water. Scrape the sides here, make sure you get everything in. And if you get a little extra dumplings out of it that you don't use, they could be reheated and turned into a side dish topping with a nice bit of Swiss cheese or other type of cheese if you like. And they can be similar to the Swabian cheese noodles you'll find in German restaurants. But it's perfect consistency because it is very loose dough. You could also flavor the dough with chives if you didn't want to use parsley, but parsley is more traditional. In a future episode, I'm going to show you how to make the goulash, Hungarian beef and vegetable soup. And we will make the Spicerer, the pinched dumplings, in a future episode. I'll give this a little stir to dissolve. Make sure the salt is dissolved. And I do have my platter here that we're going to remove these two once they are done. But it needs to be a full rolling boil. That is utmost importance when working with these drop noodle dumplings, as you can see. In a restaurant situation, to make these dumplings, they'll use a perforated hotel pan. It's a size 100 hotel pan, known as a 100 pan, but a perforated hotel pan. And they'll use a bench scraper to press the dough through the holes. There are also recipes for drop noodle dumplings or the dough will be on a cutting board or a cookie sheet. And they'll use an offset spatula and they'll scrape the dough into ropes into the water. I like it done with this. It makes easy to manage dumplings that are perfect in size. And having this rotary one and having it fit on the pot, it's very easy. And if you have a deep enough pot, this can remain on the side of the pot while you do all the dumplings. Now we are seeing here this, so we're going to proceed here. I'm going to place some of the dough in here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get real close. And we're just going to put a couple of spoonfuls in here. And then all you do is this. You rotate. And then you rotate. And they drop into the water. Rotating yet again, and they drop into the water. Give these a little stir. All right. Let's go with some more. Go with our last little bit here. Okay. Bit of that. We're going to scrape the last little bit here. I'm not going to use the last little bit of dough that's remaining on here. I'm going to clean this off and clean the side of the pot off, which we will just scrape it off because it is cooked at this point. All right. Clean this side off. Excellent. Another towel here. Just use a napkin and get this cleaned off. Okay. They're almost done. So we're going to pull them out here. They're going to go on this platter. You may never see it come back to a full rolling boil if you're doing a lot of these. If you were to do it in stages, that would be fine. I'm going to taste one of them to make sure it's cooked. Okay, we're going to remove them here to a platter. And there are some real thin strings in here, which is nice, and the little larger dumpling sized ones. Okay. This is probably going to make extra dumplings. It makes a decent amount of these. They can also be stirred into soup. All right. The real fine ones I'm not too worried about. I'm going to burn her off now. And that is our beautiful galuska. Beautiful dumplings, which we are going to finish in the skillet when we come back. We're going to be finishing everything up. Welcome back to our Hungarian Classics episode, and this is our chicken. I took the cover completely off and let it braise uncovered, and I also want to make one change to the recipe. I said it was 2 teaspoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of flour. It was 3 tablespoons of flour. I mistaked on the measurement. And I have skimmed this a little bit, so it is ready to go here. We now have to taste for seasoning. At this point, I'll grab a spoon. It has about 10 more minutes to cook. Gonna need a little more salt, not much. A little black pepper. And now we're gonna throw in our mushrooms. And they'll have a few juices. Get them stirred in. Now I'm gonna turn this down to low while we make our enrichment. This is our cabbage that has come out of the oven. It's lovely. Smells wonderful. And to our cabbage, I'm going to put some black pepper in here. Now, I didn't want to put any in earlier because I didn't want it to become bitter. Okay. Now for our enrichment, we have our chicken stock that we infused with the spices. We're going to put 1/2 cup. Full fat sour cream. It's important here that it's full fat sour cream. Don't use low fat here. Low fat ain't going to be very stable here. And you might say maybe you want to use creme fraiche. Creme fraiche would work, but it would work and be slightly more stable, but it's not going to be as tangy. The real sour cream is best here. And just mix it up. Lots of nice gravy in here. Now we need this on really low heat while we add this mixture here. Okay. The heat needs to be low when we stir this mixture in here. Because we don't want this to break. Because there is possibility that this will break if you're not careful. So we're going to be slow when we add our enrichment in here. And mixing the sour cream in to the chicken stock rather than just adding it in separately makes things easier. And now we don't want this to come to a full rolling boil. We just want it to heat through and be mixed in. And we're going to give it one last taste. If you didn't want to go through the trouble of making the galuska homemade, you can use egg noodles here and it would be delicious. That's all of that. Beautiful. Now we do one last taste test. Just Just a final pinch of salt. It's lovely. It's not overly spicy, but if you're sensitive, you could easily omit the spice here. And I'm going to switch pans here. And I'll set the pan with our lovely paprikash off, and I'm going to put the skillet on the fire. And I'm going to turn the heat up high, and we're going to start to add our lovely noodles in here. I'm not going to put all of them in here. I'm going to reserve some of these noodles. That's plenty. If you're really worried about the noodles, you can put a little melted butter on them while they're in that dish. The traditional way of preparing them would be to melt some butter in an oven-proof dish in the oven and then slide the noodles, give them a toss, and reheat them that way in the oven. But I like to do it here in the skillet. It doesn't take long. And we're about to shut the burner off here. Turn the burner off. Disengage the gas can. I'm not using it anymore. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to serve. Welcome back to the Spicerer's table and our Hungarian Classics episode. And we're going to serve. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hunt down the bay leaves that are inside, because you do not want to eat them. We'll hunt them down because you do not want to eat them, but you do want to leave the cabbage in this beautiful juice. And when you refrigerate it, it can be refrigerated in this beautiful juice. This could even be turned into a cabbage soup if you had leftovers. And then we have our beautiful galuska and our wonderful chicken paprikash. That's just lovely, lots of gravy. Gravy's good on leftover mashed potatoes too. It's just lovely stuff. And we'll show you how to prepare it. We'll first start our plate here. And I like this plate it's a little deeper, as you can see here. So we'll take some cabbage. It's nice to serve it with the cabbage. It's just a nice balance here. Get a napkin here, and we'll clean up our plate here. There's going to be a little juice. That's why I like this type of a plate. And next, our galuska. Lovely Hungarian drop noodle dumplings. You could even build this in a pasta bowl. Would be another way to go. And last but not least, and I'm going to stir into this paprikash some parsley. Do a bit of stir. Last second, gonna have a nice fresh herbal punch, and then we're gonna sprinkle some on the top of our plate. Now we'll take our plate and just be careful and ladle over the noodles. Get some of the juice in there. Grab our plate to wipe. And there you have it, folks. It couldn't be easier. Couldn't be easier, folks. Until next time, where we're going to tackle Indian curry. We're going to make chicken and madras curry and show you how to make basic pilau. That will be on our next episode. And later on down the road, we are going to tackle the Hungarian soup goulash. Till I see you again. Bye.